We're headed back to 1877, where Wrexham AFC had become the dominant side in Wales. They did this by playing a 2-3-5 tactic, also known as the pyramid tactic, which they used to great effect to win the first ever Welsh Cup. But as an ancient tactic with such success in the 1870s, this made me wonder, could this tactic work in Football Manager? And this is what the 2-3-5 tactic looks like in Football Manager. So for this video, we're going to break down what this tactic might have looked like back in the 1870s. And then we're going to test the tactic by simulating a season with it. But I don't want to just simulate a season with this tactic to see how it does. We're also going to add a little challenge to this tactic. So what we're going to do is, after our initial simulation, depending on what we see from the tactic, we're going to try to modify this tactic in an attempt to win the league. And we're going to have 5 attempts to win the league. And for each attempt that I do not win the league, I'm going to have to do 10 push-ups. And the goal for this video will be, can I win the league in 5 attempts using a modified version of the tactic from the 1870s? Or by the end of this video, am I going to end up doing 50 push-ups? From everything I've read and done research on, this is as close as I think we're going to get this tactic to looking how it did in 1877 and 1878 when Wrexham won the Welsh Cup, the first ever Welsh Cup. So how it looked was there were 2 defenders. At the time, I believe they were called fullbacks. There were 3 halfbacks, or kind of defensive midfield players. And then we had 5 forwards up top. So at the time, these were considered wide forward. These were considered inside forwards. And then we had a central forward here who likely might have been a sort of target forward. The real position that I struggled with was maybe these positions here. From what I've seen, I think they were advanced forwards, but they may have also acted as deep lying forwards. Like, they did a little bit of getting behind, but they might have also helped in the build-up play. It's unclear exactly what they looked like. And then we had wide forwards, which I think wingers are probably the closest we're going to get to that. But the most interesting position is actually this position right here. So it seems like the middle halfback was one of the most important positions at the time in the game, because the other team also had 5 or 6 forwards. And this position here was responsible for marking the other team's center forward. So in this position, in this case, it's Thomas Partey here. He is going to be responsible for marking the other team's center forward. Now, the thing is, back in the 1870s, when you were going up against 6-5 forwards, that was probably really smart. However, in the modern day game, where the other team doesn't have, they might even have 0 forwards or just 1 forward, I don't think that's going to work quite as well. Other gaps in the team here, we can actually turn on the analysis to see here. The areas highlighted in red are areas we're not covering. We can see that pretty clearly here, where we're going to really struggle against the opposition wingers. I think in the Football Manager match engine, that's really where we're going to see this tactic struggle. And potentially, like, there's a lot of areas here. So if the other team is a defensive mid, or maybe wing backs in these positions here, it could be interesting to see how the other team builds up, because this could end up being an easy way to build out the back. But anyways, that is likely what this tactic looked like. For a team like Wrexham at the time too, they were probably positive, playing quickly and directly, definitely countering and a version of counter pressing at the time while kind of being high up the pitch. So that's kind of what we're going with for this tactic at the moment. We're starting off with this tactic as well at Arsenal, because we're going to try to win the league too. I didn't want to choose Man City or Liverpool because I felt like that would be cheating. So I felt like Arsenal was the best team to choose for this. The only problem with Arsenal is, like, they don't really have a bunch of forwards. Like, these are all the forwards that they have, and they don't really have a true forward who can play in this position. We're kind of sticking Havertz in there. So we might have to mess with the tactics a little bit to try and make this work. However, Depending on how this goes with Arsenal, we could change teams later down the line, but that's something we'll think of later down the line. So first up, before we get into simulations, I do want to see what this looks like in the match engine. So I'm going to play this friendly against Galatasaray just to see what it would look like in the match engine before we get into any kind of simulation. And then we'll go back to the beginning of the season and test out how this works. But we're going to see how this tactic works within the Football Manager match engine. I'll see you all in a match. All right, well, that match actually went pretty well. So all things considered, we're going to move into attempt number 1 of trying to win the league here. And we're going with this base tactic from 1877-78. I'm not changing anything for this simulation. We're giving everything exactly as it is. But this is going to be attempt number 1. Let's see how Arsenal does using this tactic from the 1870s. And attempt number 1 has gone very poorly. Arsenal have finished down in 11th place. A very interesting season. 38 matches, 15 wins, and 18 losses. Wow, that's bad. And I'm seeing a 7-0 loss to Man City there. So not a good defensive tactic. Actually, though, the top scorers in the league with 93 goals, but also having allowed 115 of them. Looking through this season here, really interesting. Actually, a decent start. Where did things begin to unravel? Oh, okay, so things began to unravel in December, and it just kept going downhill towards the end of the season there. I'm looking at overall stats here just to see if anyone played particularly well. Just by average rating, it does seem to be the players higher up the pitch who played well, at least the ones who played the most matches. Goals, though, I mean, not super impressive goal totals from anyone. Some nice assist totals, though, like Sterling, Martinelli, and Odegaard. So the wide players getting a lot of assists, but kind of wish we were getting more goals from our front three. We definitely have a bit to change here moving into the second attempt. So I'm going to change up the tactic a little bit and we'll try again. All right, we are moving into our second attempt now. I did forget to mention last time, but we are at 10 push-ups now. So hopefully we can do a little bit better this time around. So a few things I'm changing. I'm actually keeping the defensive mids as is and our central defenders as is. But we're changing things up a little. First of all, Partey here, he is absolutely not marking their central striker. We need him in the midfield. But where I've made the most changes here is in the front line. So a few things we're doing here is I don't think Kai Havertz really worked as a target man. So I've decided to change him to a deep lying forward on support. As I hope that means he'll kind of go into this area here and help to link up play. Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus, though, may remain as kind of advanced forwards because I think they're going to get in behind well, and I like that they move into the channels. But where I've made the most significant change is in our wide positions. And I'm taking a lesson from the 2-2-6 video, and I'm going to have these two players here tackle harder and mark the opposing winger. So that's going to mean that hopefully in defense, they're going to track back a little bit more, but in offense, when we have the ball, they will be pushing up a little bit more. So I'm hoping by having them mark the opposition winger, that's going to force them to lower their position. And essentially, it could give us, like, they could act as wingbacks, essentially. And it'll give us 7 in defense. And then when we're in attack, we'll have these 5 in attack. So I hope that'll give us a little bit more defensive solidity, marking an area that, as we can see here, an area that is problematic. So hopefully they'll get back and mark those areas. And at the same time, it'll give us that kind of attacking impetus as well. So that is the big change for attempt number 2. Let's see if we do any better than attempt number 1. Well, I think that attempt was a little bit better. We got 16 wins this season instead of just 15, and we got 53 points. We did not score as many goals, though. We also didn't allow as many goals. I don't know if it was better or worse, to be honest with you. Let's check the XG table. I mean, the XG table's about the same. I guess we did a little bit better. I see we won the FA Cup. What? So we actually won a trophy with this one. That doesn't count. That's 20 push-ups now, by the way. That's another 10 push-ups. I should have made it so that if we won a cup or something, we had less push-ups. But we beat Birmingham in the FA Cup final. in extra time with the 2-2-6. Who did we beat? Everton, Bristol City. We beat Man City with a 2-2-6 formation. What a wild ride during the season. I do want to see something here, though, to see if our changes might have worked. So, this was the last match of the season against Spurs. So, if we check the analytical data and let's look at the average positions here of our Arsenal team, and we'll just go with the starting 11. So, with the ball, this looks exactly as expected, that 2-3-5. But without the ball, all right, so it looks like our wingers ended up being closer to our defensive mid position. So they're not as high up as they used to be, because they used to be a little bit up here. So they are dropping back a little bit as far as the average position in defense is concerned, but there's still a big gap back here. That's definitely an issue. All right, we are forward to attempt number 3, and I've decided to move clubs. We are now doing this with Barcelona. I wanted a team where we had a little bit of a better chance to win the league, but I felt like we already did this with Real Madrid. We're going to try this with Barcelona. So why have I changed to Barcelona? You guys might be wondering. The biggest reason here is Robert Lewandowski. As we saw in the last attempt, we didn't get enough goals. And I think a big reason for that is the front line weren't firing. So, to change that, I'm moving to Barcelona, where we have Lamine Yamal, Rafinha, Robert Lewandowski, and I think this is going to work. This is a team more suited potentially to this style of play. So, I've made a few changes to the tactic, so let's talk about it. So, Robert Lewandowski is now an advanced forward on attack, and something that I liked from the 2-2-6 we did was that we had 2 deep lying forwards here with the wingers kind of getting in behind. So I'm taking that again. So Torres and Ansu Fati here should come in and help up to link play in these areas to help connect us to our back 3 here. We still have Lamine Yamal and Rafinha as wingers on attack, so they should still look to get behind as well. The other big change I've made is that De Jong is now going to be a halfback. So the center of the 3 DMs here is going to be a halfback. The reason for that is I want to see us in possession. Like, we have 3 players here. I don't think we need 3 players. So De Jong can drop in between the center backs. The center backs can then split wide out here. And then we should be able to build up the back a little bit easier like that. The way we have this here is essentially kind of like how Guardiola for a few seasons, when he was using those inverted wingbacks a lot, would fill in. But I just feel like with the way the Football Manager match engine works, if we have someone go in here, that's going to allow us to play out of the back a little bit better. So I want to see if this works well. While there was a lot of space before, I want to see if this changes anything. So at this point in time, we still have Lamine Yamal and Rafinha on the tackle harder and the marking a specific position. And we saw last season that led to a 30 goal or so reduction. So I think that helped a lot. And as far as things are concerned, up top too, I've decided to put everyone on tackle harder. The reason for this is given that we have such forward players up there, we have a higher press and a higher defensive line. If we put everyone on get stuck in, hopefully we'll be able to win the ball high up the pitch. Something else that might think is weird is that I don't have prevent goalkeeper like short distribution on. The reason for that is because we don't have a whole lot of players who I think are super great in the air and can win it. So I kind of want the goalkeeper to play it short and see if we can win the ball high up the pitch. I think that might work well for us, actually. But those are the changes for attempt number 3. Given that I just don't think it suited Arsenal as well, we are switching now to Barcelona, where I think we have a better chance of winning the league after finishing mid-table twice. But yes, we are in La Liga now. Let's see if we do any better for this 3rd attempt. Well, moving to Barcelona was definitely the right choice. We finished in 2nd place. This is our best showing so far. We didn't win the league, so I'm now at 30 push-ups. But this is much better. I mean, we've scored more goals. We've also allowed 72 goals, but that is less than before. So I think we're on the right track with the tactic here. And this is something I'm happy to see. Much higher goal scoring totals now. This is what we're looking for up top. Lewandowski 37, Fati 32, Ferran Torres 20. And then looking at the assists, 22 from Balde, 18 from Olmo. Lots of assists all around. This is much closer to a tactic that could actually work in Football Manager. So this is the last match of the season against Las Palmas. And really interesting. So this is the average position of our players with the ball. And we can see here Frankie de Jong moving into, or actually this is Eric Garcia, he was playing that halfback position, moving into the kind of in between, splitting the center back. Center back's much wider. And it seems like this allowed Christensen to push up the field as a defensive mid on support. Gavi's pushed up a little bit, but also we can see much better connection here. Deep lying forward's not so high. We see a much better connection with the midfield. I like what we're seeing there. Then average position without the ball. This is weird, isn't it? This just looks weird. Well, I like to see that Balde is back, but it seems like everything's kind of weird in the middle. We're super scrunched. And then we do still have Pedri, who's super high up the field. Okay, we might need to change some of the without the ball stuff. All right, we are moving into attempt number 4 now. And to be honest, I might have gone a little bit crazy with this attempt number 4 tactic. But we're trying to make it work. So I guess we're just kind of throwing stuff to see if it sticks. So here's what we're doing. Halfback is still on, which this might end up being a mistake. And I've got everyone on tackle harder, by the way. But I want us to have a little bit more defensive solidity. Like, we're still allowing a lot of goals. So what we're going to try to do here is in defense, see if we can do a little bit of a makeshift back 4. So what we're going to do is Christensen and Gavi here on their respective sides, they are now going to be the ones who mark the wingers. So hopefully in defense, we're going to see they're going to move back here and they're going to move back here. So, and they're a lot closer to those positions. So I hope that helps. But now what we're doing here is you can see Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. In those last average positions, they were super central for some reason. So what we're going to have them do is they're going to mark the defensive mids of the opposing team. So what I'm hoping is that these 2 players are going to move into this position. These 2 players are going to move into this position. And I'm saying this all out loud, and I'm not going to lie. It might be a little bit too much, but I mean, we have a 2-3-5. We got to make it work somehow. So anyways, they're going to hopefully move in to mark kind of the defensive mids so that the other team can't play out of the back when we press high. We have our 3 forwards up top providing that press on the opposition back 4. We have De Jong in the middle here, and then hopefully Christensen and Gavi will move to the widths and mark the opposing wingers. I have no idea if this is going to work or not. Well, it wasn't horrible, but it definitely didn't work. We scored a lot less goals, and all things considered, we need to score goals for this tactic to work. But interestingly, it was significantly better defensively. We were actually kind of a mid-table team defensively. So it kind of worked defensively, but it was a really poor offensive tactic. Interestingly, we did win the Spanish Cup, and we did win the Spanish Super Cup, though, which is insane. We beat Atletico Madrid in the Spanish Cup final. And actually, we also beat Atletico Madrid in the Spanish Super Cup. So looking once again at the average positions as far as with the ball, this is pretty much what we expect. Again, we have the halfback moving here, defensive players splitting. That looks exactly what we expect. But without the ball, it's still very central. I don't know if that worked or not. I was expecting like Gavi to be a little bit wider here and Christensen to be a little bit wider here. Yeah, I really was hoping on defense. I mean, I guess they are wider. Like, Gavi's definitely wider than he was and further back than he was. Christensen's not really where I'm expecting him to be. All right, well, we have one more attempt to try to win the league with this tactic. All right, attempt number 5. We're 40 push-ups in. I really don't want to have to do 50 push-ups, so I would love it if we're saving the best for last here. But we're just trying something a little bit different now. So we didn't score a whole lot of goals last time out. So we're putting Torres as a deep lying forward on attack, just to see if he'll run in behind a little bit more. Since he's on attack, I'm going to have Lamine Yamal as a winger on support. But otherwise, we're keeping this a little bit the same, still trying to press high, still trying to tackle harder, things like that. But where we're changing for hopefully a little bit more attacking impetus is in the midfield. So we've got Gavi here on a regista. So this was the halfback, now is a regista. So I was originally thinking about making this a deep line playmaker because I still wanted this to be the focal point. But I don't think at this point maybe we need him to drop in like I've been having him do. So Gavi's a little bit more like the Regista's a more aggressive version of a deep line playmaker. He should push up a little bit higher up the pitch as well. So I think he'll move up a little bit into this space that's currently kind of blank with nobody there. So I think that's going to allow us to build out of the back maybe a little bit better than we have been. Despite the weird average positions that we saw last time out, we were better in defense, so I'm keeping De Jong and Christensen as marking those players out wide. The only thing I have changed is I'm not having these players mark the defensive mids anymore. We do have Regista here who might play a little bit higher up. And I think that will help to sully maybe some of the players who are playing in here. I've also changed a few things in in the possession stuff. I'm gonna have them be a little bit more expressive. Just this is a good team. I think that'll work. I'm going to try and play out of the back, so we'll distribute to center backs just to see how that goes. And the other thing is I've now turned on prevent short goalkeeper distribution. Since I don't have anyone covering this space anymore, I think it might be good to try and play long. And we have these three players here, so we should be able to win the second ball. Ariel and Kunde here are, decent enough in the air, so hopefully we should win it. And hopefully these players will win the second ball, and we'll be able to go forward from there. But all right, this is attempt number 5. This is our final attempt to try to win the league with a modified version of a tactic from the 1870s. Can we do it, or will I be doing 50 push-ups? Honestly, this was probably our best attempt yet, but I am doing 50 push-ups. We finished in second place. I think this was our best attacking output. This was still a pretty good defensive output. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with how to finish second, only losing out to, 100, we were never going to get 105 points. But to finish second with this tactic, I think is a really good accomplishment, all things considered. Unfortunately, we didn't win anything. We were knocked out. We were runners-up in the Spanish Super Cup. Who did we lose to in the Spanish Super Cup final? We lost 3-0 to Real Madrid. Yeah, it's not really a surprise. Average position-wise, I think this is probably the closest to how I expected it to look. So 2-3-5 in possession and without the ball. Yeah, this is pretty much what I actually did think it would look. We do have the wingers coming back a little bit. Maybe these should be a little bit wider. But yeah, that's kind of what we've seen throughout this whole video. Solid attacking outputs up top. Maybe we're getting the goals that we were hoping to get from Robert Lewandowski, but 31 goals for him and 30 goals from Ansu Fati is super impressive. And again, huge assist totals all around here. Dani Olmo, 27 assists, 19 from Pedri, 17 from Ferran Torres, double-digit assists as well for Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. And there again, there's no trouble with the attacking part of this tactic. It really is just the defensive side of things where they might not necessarily go well. But overall, this was a lot of fun. Attempting to win the league and make a tactic work from the 1870s, it's definitely a really difficult football manager challenge, but one I really enjoyed. And if you guys like this type of video, let me know, because I really enjoyed this. I think it'd be fun to do again. So I will cut to me doing 50 push-ups. Hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you all are doing well and taking care of yourselves, and I will see you all next time. Bye.